Football has a very interesting way that they value teams. It's very political. It's always been very political. However, if we stepped outside of the gridiron for just a moment and looked over to the way that hoops evaluates teams, that would have been really good news for a football team this season.
TJ, if you mean bad when you say interesting, you're correct. You're right there. You've landed the plane. It's bad. The way that we rank teams, the way that we rank resumes, the way that we judge college football teams, because you said, hey, strength of record matters. Well, BYU had better strength of record than Notre Dame and Miami. Well, strength of schedule matters. Well, BYU had a better strength of schedule than Notre Dame and Miami. Well, wins matter. BYU had more wins than both of them. If we can't figure out a way to do resumes, Spencer Linton has a really good answer. Now, Spencer is with BYU TV, does a great job with BYU TV, and so this comes from a BYU guy, which makes a lot of sense. He breaks down how in college basketball, they use the net ranking. Quad 1, Quad 2, Quad 3, Quad 4. A win in Quad 1 is obviously far better than a win in Quad 4. A loss in Quad 4 is devastating in your chances for making March Madness. It's how they break this up to judge which team is best based on their strength of schedule and based on quads. And they're mostly based on KenPom or your net rating. Well, what he's done is based on a Massey rating, and Massey's very popular in college football. Actually, so popular, TJ, that some conferences use Massey as like their seventh tiebreaker. Let's just ask the computer from Massey who's the better team and send them to our conference championship based on the tiebreaker. So what they've broken down here, Spencer's done. If you did this like basketball and had Quad 1, a Quad 1 win would be a home win against any team ranked 1 through 25. A Quad 1 win would be a neutral site victory over any team 1 through 30. A Quad 1 win would be an away victory against any team 1 through 40. And then Quad 2 goes to 41 through 70 and all the way down to number 136 in college football. In that event, a team like BYU, who had Quad 1 wins against Arizona on the road, the number 29 team in the country, wins against Utah, number 12 in the nation, number 27 Iowa State on the road, at Texas Tech, certainly a loss, but a Quad 1 win against number 23 TCU, and Quad 2 wins against teams like Cincinnati or Georgia Tech. Even Georgia Tech was a Quad 2 win. What you'd find, TJ, is a resume of a team that's 4-1 in Quad 1, 3-0 in Quad 2, 4-0 in Quad 3, and you can finally start to digest. It starts to make more sense to you when you say, hey, TCU basketball, listen to this, everybody as you're trying to piece together. TCU basketball is 1-7 against Quad 1 opponents, and they're 8-2 against Quad 2 opponents. You can begin to understand just how good that team is, how good their resume is, based on the way we rank college basketball teams. If you do that in college football, it is yet another glaring metric to prove that BYU is one of the top 12 teams in the country, top 10 teams in the country. And you say, well, Miami's really good. They made the national championship game. They have NFL caliber talent across the defensive line. Well, yeah, BYU had one of the best linebacking cores in the country. And you say, well, yeah, but Miami's so good. Yeah, but based on what resume in the regular season, they lost to Louisville and SMU. And we saw BYU lose to Texas Tech and twice, and Texas Tech was a top 4 team in the country. As you start to ask these questions, I get Miami looked really, really good, but we didn't know that. Hindsight's always 20/20. What was the metric? What was the metric that allowed the Canes in? What was the metric, more importantly, that allowed Alabama and Oklahoma in over BYU? Well, they beat Tennessee. They beat Missouri. That doesn't stack up when we talk about this opportunity, this metric opportunity, and trying to rank these teams more objectively. TJ, is it true? Is it true that in selecting the college football playoff this year, we didn't actually go off resume and instead said, you know what, whatever brand is there, head-to-head, put them in?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we always do. We always look at the number of losses, and we rank teams based on that. And the tiebreaker for the number of losses is head-to-head or conference affiliation. Yeah. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, look at the rankings. Indiana undefeated, which they deserve to be. I'm not saying that they didn't. Yeah, Indiana undefeated. Then what'd you have next? All your 1-loss teams. Then what'd you have next? All your 2-loss teams. And then who missed the playoff? Well, Texas with a 3-loss. Oh, but wait, BYU only had 2 losses. Why didn't they get in over the other 2-loss teams that did make it?
Well, 3-loss Bama, right?
Bama, yeah. Well, we don't count conference championships. Championships.
Yeah. But BYU only has 1 playoffs, right? But it does count for the Big 12.
We don't count SEC conference championships.
Right.
Yeah, brand matters. I mean, ultimately it just does, and that sucks and that's not really fair, but brand absolutely matters. This playoff is and will continue to be. Now, we got great playoff games. I'm not, Miami Ole Miss was great.
Yeah, I'm not mad Miami got in. Yeah.
Miami Indiana was a good game, and I thought they gave Indiana as good of a game as anybody in the country could have. So I'm not down on them. And to be honest with you, we got good playoff games last year too. Notre Dame had a good run with, good game against Penn State. Obviously, Ohio State deserved to be there. All those things. That said, this is a made-for-TV invitational. And I think the sooner people can wrap their minds around that, this is not a true, hey, we reward you like the NBA does or the NHL does or the MLB or the NFL for winning your division or winning your conference or winning these things. No, this is a made-for-TV ratings invitational. Yeah. Like, that's all this is. And let me just tell you, Alabama in the playoff looks better than Vandy in the playoffs. And to them, Notre Dame or Miami, to ESPN, looks better than BYU in the playoff. They just do. Like that. At just the end of the day, and whether that's fair, whether that's right, whether you're objectively trying to measure teams and what their value is, what their rating is, how successful their resume or their season were, like none of that really matters to the people at ESPN. This is, which, they'll say, oh, well, ESPN doesn't control the playoff, BS. They don't care about any of that. This is what brands can we get in here to take care of ourselves, mostly the SEC. That's why they got 5 of the, did the SEC got 4 of the 7 at-large bids?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. They were the only team to, there were, Miami got an at-large, and then Ohio State and Indiana got at-large. Ohio State and Oregon got at-larges. Yeah. Everything else was the SEC. And they tried to keep Miami out, if not for that head-to-head with Notre Dame. Yep. So this is, again, maybe when we get to 16, it's a little better. Don't expect too much. Maybe if we get to 24, it's a little better. Again, don't expect too much. We will have a 7-5 Tennessee in when that happens. But
TJ,
that's what this playoff is.
Such a problem with this is that if we do go to 24, what's going to happen is we'll get to the round of 8, and there'll be 0 SEC teams and 2 Big 12 teams and 4 Big 10 teams and 2 ACC teams. And Greg Sankey was like, well, that's why I didn't want 24.
Yeah.
We're already playing a gauntlet of a conference schedule. Of course, our teams are going to lose in the playoff. That's why they don't want 24. It has nothing to do with competition. It has to do with the invitational being not rigged against the SEC, completely open and free for all. When it's free for everyone, open for everyone, even keel, that's where the SEC crumbles instantly, and teams like BYU can rise to the top. But instead, we take a new metric that would show you a very raw resume, like a net rating does in basketball, and it says, oh, look, BYU should be there. And collectively, the College Football Playoff Committee, controlled by ESPN, says, no, let's not do that. Come on, guys. Let's let in the big brands. That's all they're built to do.
The BCS was not perfect by any means, but an objective measure of how to make a championship was much better than a subjective group of 8, 10, 12 people sitting in a room deciding who gets in this thing and who doesn't. And if the thing that I think made the BCS the best was that it did include some human element. They did take the polls into consideration, and we can hate on the polls as much as we want. And when there's a random offshoot of somebody will have a team ranked 15th and 16th, and that team just played each other. Somebody, watching Tulane, not to take shots there, will rank somebody 15th that just lost to the number 16 team. You do have those minor quips with the AP poll. By and large, the 100-person average that never has an impact, right? Like the AP never comes out and the team that just beat the team, like that doesn't happen, right? Week 10 happens and Alabama's behind LSU despite beating them in week 9. That never happens, right? So I do think the BCS not being perfect, but an objective measure for how to properly rate teams is something the sport needs. Whether it's this net rating, whether it's Massey, I don't care if they use Sangren, I don't care what they use as some kind of objective measure. They're not going to do this because a computer just spits out an algorithm and gives you a team. They want They want eyeballs every Tuesday night. They want us to tune in and watch. They want us to be watching on Sundays after Championship Saturday at noon. They want us tuning in to see what's going on. So they're not going to do this. But yes, of course, just being objective with it. And if you missed out on a BCS championship game because you were number 3, and if you missed out on the playoff because you were number 13 in the rankings, then you miss out, man. Like, you just, here was the rubric. You didn't pass the test. If we would have had the BCS this year, and BYU would have finished 13th. BYU would have been, we should have done a little bit more. We should have done a little bit more to get there. When you have people in a room committee that strategically drop you down to 11th so that you can't do anything but play your way in, that's where I think we look at this and say, yeah, it's a made for TV invitational. That's all it is.
Yep. And it's a ESPN made for TV invitational. Otherwise, teams like Indiana that proved to a lot of people that the Big Ten gets way more eyeballs, teams like that would have gotten much more love and respect. Think about how many more viewers Indiana would have gotten if ESPN had given them their fair shake over the course of this year and actually given them the publicity they deserved. ESPN lost money because they ignored Indiana over the course of the year.
Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
At Locked On Big 12, at Drake C. Toll.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, TJ.